Now we'll jump into the channels of energy that are active within our chart and to understand their significance. So, as I mentioned, when gates are activated in our birth chart and they run on the same circuit, they create a channel if both of the neighboring gates are active, and this is what creates the definition in our centers in the body graph. So a good example here is I have the channel 6447, channel of abstraction, and because both of these gates, this one in the head and this one in the ajna, are active, it creates a channel, versus gate 63 being active but gate 4 not being active, I don't have a channel. So what creates this defined consistent source of energy in my head and in my mind, in my ajna, is the link between the 64th gate and the 47th. That's what's keeping it pumping. Same thing down here. I have the channel of judgment, 1858. I have gate 32 coming from the spleen, but no gate 54. So the definition, right, the stability in my root, the energy that I have in my spleen, right, this constant flow of energy between these two centers is possible because of this channel. Now, I'm I may have touched on this briefly when I was describing the gates about how when we come into contact with other people's auras that have these gates that we do not, they turn into what we call a bridge. Okay, so for the moment that we are around them, they bridge our split, or like where it's missing. The other way that we can create these bridges is based on the planets in the sky. So we have, I'll explain this again, I think I already have though. We have what we call human design transits, and it means that each of the 64 gates throughout the year are, move through the sun gate. And depending on its position, we can track which gate is activated, and when that gate is passing through the sun, then it becomes active for everybody. So if gate 48 is in transit, then that would create a bridge for that period of time. It's usually about 5 to 7 days. That will create a bridge for that period of time for me, because gate 48 is active for that period of time. Again, or if I'm with somebody who has gate 48 active in their chart and I spend a lot of time with them, it creates this bridge for me as long as I'm around them. As soon as I leave their presence, I will go back to not having this bridge. So the channels, there are 36 of them. They each have their own themes. And as I said, I'll go through them type by, like what it means type by type to have channels. So for manifestors, the channels, this is just a very high level, but the channels in your chart show you how you naturally initiate and impact the world. For generators and manifesting generators, it shows where your energy naturally flows sustainably, and what you can respond to easily. Projectors, it shows where we're naturally able to guide, understand things, or direct others' energy. For reflectors, it just shows how you mirror and reflect your environment, and what you're most sensitive to. However, it's kind of irrelevant for reflectors because you won't have any channels, because for reflectors, they're completely open. However, that's that's just for your natural state. But again, when the transits hit, or you come into contact, or you're around somebody constantly that create bridges in your human design chart, then you will have access to the energy of that bridge. Yeah, so that's just something to experiment with. So, you know, we're getting quite deep into it, but the first things first is like you're just understanding all these components at a high level. And I wouldn't be getting too caught up in, oh, which gate's active and how am I absorbing energy at the start. It would be more going back to the basics of strategy and authority. Um, Probably a good thing to note halfway through this, um, that, we don't want to get too caught up in the technicalities of this. And this is why I've actually resisted doing technical stuff on human design, because um, we can sort of, I don't want to paint the impression that this is what it's all about. Human design is about subtraction, not addition. But it is good, right? Especially being a human design projector with sharing circuitry, where I'm here to share, it is good to understand this stuff, but just hold it lightly. Don't get too attached to it. But it is good to have a high level understanding. So our channels, okay, they're made up of two gates. We have natural channels, um, and then sometimes we get temporary bridges formed depending on who we're around or where the planets are in the sky and which gate is in transit and being amplified, the energy of that gate being amplified, therefore giving us access to it. So that is channels, and this is just another layer that I sort of feel into when I'm looking at charts or looking at a certain area for somebody to help give them some clues about where they you know, where they could focus their energy.